happening? Anna's got such a clear writing style that if you stripped all the covers off and took away any identifying features, if you just gave me like a block of text, if I read it, I could pick an Ana Huang book. It doesn't sound like her. Hey there, it's Bear, and today I'm going to be ranking every single Ana Huang book that she's ever released. Well, almost every book. We will not be ranking King of Envy, which is Anna's latest release, because I don't know what happened here, but for some reason, I just can't get through it. This might be the first ever Anna book that I don't finish, I DNF, because what is happening? Anna's got such a clear writing style that if you stripped all the covers off and took away any identifying features, if you just gave me like a block of text, if I read it, I could pick an Ana Huang book. It doesn't sound like her. I don't know what's happening or what happened, but like in the acknowledgement section, she even says to Becca, which is one of her editors that she's acknowledged throughout the last 10 books, "It took us a while to get into this couple's heads, but we did it. Moving you know what to you know where in the story was absolutely the right move. Plus Jordan lived to see another day." It took a while to get into the characters' heads. Maybe, and I don't know how to say this in a nice way, so I'm just gonna say it. Maybe you should have spent more time on it. I'm sorry, it's there, I said it. I think this book is so underbaked. This book is so underbaked. Why is it so thick? Like, what happened to editing? Like, and it's not just Anna, but like the last couple of Ali Hazelwood books are like this thick. And like from an editor's perspective, there's just so much that can be cut that is completely irrelevant. But it's almost like because Book Talk and BookTube and Bookstagram and it's like trendy to read, and they know that readers will buy anything if they like an author, they're just kind of just pumping it out like fast fashion, and the editing process is definitely suffering. Like, I know Anna has a whole editing team behind her, but like, why am I not getting sucked into this book? Like, I love Anna, I do, and you'll see that as I'm ranking the books, but like, where did we go wrong? And it's so disappointing because I actually almost DNF'd The Striker, because The Striker I was so ready for. I got the pre-order with like the foily cover. It was Ash's story. We've seen Asher basically from the beginning. He's like a footballer from the UK, and I really liked him. He's got that kind of sassy like fuckboy energy, and I love when a fuckboy gets like tamed by a boss ass bitch, and that's what I was expecting here. And he carried the entire story. I didn't like Scarlett at all. She was not likable, and the writing structure definitely could use some work. The marketing was just atrocious. Imagine marketing this as like Taboo, like brothers, teammate, best friend, and then he like isn't even there. He's meant to be doing the task with them, and then he's removed pretty much immediately. So it's not like really like they're sneaking around because he's not even there. It was just like, why did we put him in that situation then? Why was he part of the kind of training program if he wasn't going to be there anyway? Like, that negates the entire tension and purpose of the character arc. And I slogged through it for Asher, but I was so let down and so disappointed. So I was so ready. I was so ready for King of Envy, because like Vuk is like this character that we've like seen throughout, and he's got like this like mysterious past. No one knows anything about him. He's pretty non-verbal, doesn't talk. And I was like, yes, I'm so ready for this. And then I'm still in chapter like 3. And then I thought, is it me? Am I the problem here? Because you know, sometimes if you're in a negative headspace, that's going to affect the book that you're reading. I am in a bit of a depressive funk because I've got a lot of medical stuff going on behind the scenes, and I'm getting really burnt out from it. So I was like, maybe I'm just like, I'm not having a good day. Like, sometimes we don't have good days, and I'll put it aside and I'll try again. Tell me why I've read 10 books since this came out. It's not me. I'm powering through my TBR. Body's flared up. I'm in bed. Doesn't matter. I'm having a great time reading all the books, like just smashing them out. After every book, I think, okay, is it time? And then I pick it up and it's just, I start reading and I'm like, where is the magic? Where is the Ana magic that I expect? Like, if you're going to be an amazing writer and create such an amazing, like, pretense for your books, like, I pre-order Ana every single time because I know that I'm going to like it. I know it doesn't matter what trope it is, even if it's a trope that I don't like, Ana's going to make me like it. But I've sat down to read this now so many times and I just keep getting stuck. It doesn't sound like her. I'm not invested in the characters. It's kind of giving sloppy, messy goop. We kind of already did that. We did that in the If Love series. We did it in her first books that were self-published, that she banged out during COVID, first year 2020. We've done slop. It was really messy. She was working it out, like there were time skips and like all of this stuff. Ana was finding her writing style. And then book 4, If We Were Perfect, boom, Ana has a writing style. It's so clear, so crisp. She carries it through the Twisted series, Kings of Sin series, and then it gets lost. But enough about those 2 books. Can we get into some Ana that we actually really, really love? Because a lot of her books are amazing. Like I said, if you're new to Ana, she has the If Love series, the Twisted series, the Kings of Sin series, and then, as I said before, the sports romance football series, which I thought was a once-off like spin-off to see Ash's story. And then I find out Defender's coming out next, which is the sequel to this. And I'm like, finish a series. Like, I'm sorry, but like finish a series first. Now we're going between 2 different series. And unless the writing really sharpens up, all it's gonna do is confuse. Because I'm assuming the reason why we're doing 2 series at the same time now is because like there'll be some overlap and like there'll be like Easter eggs and like cameos and we'll have to meet other characters to meet other characters to get other characters, and I'm fine with that. But if the writing is messy and not making sense and things are getting injected where they shouldn't, then it's just going to get like a really confusing slump. And instead of just like 2 outlier books, it's going to be like the next 5 books are going to be like shockingly bad. So I'm really hoping that Defender clears up the Striker, but also clears up King of Envy, and then like maybe if I can get through the Defender and like Defender's like really, really good, then that might break the spell and I can go back through King of Envy, because I feel like I'm missing out. And people are liking this book. So I'm just like, again, am I the problem? I don't think so. And the only way I can really explain it is by showing you guys Ana's good work and like the journey of how we got here. So we're going to start with the If Love series. Now, we only have book 4 in paperback of the If Love series because it's the only one that we really loved. Like, we gave this an A tier. This is an A tier book. But there are 3 more before it. So the first one is If We Ever Meet Again, and that is a love story between Farah and Blake. Now, what was confusing about this series is Farah and Blake are also the protagonists of book 2, If the Sun Never Sets. And there's a 5-year gap, but book 3, If Love Had a Price, is set in between those 2 books. So by the time book 3 came around, I wasn't invested in Chris's love story because we already knew that they got together because of the second book being set more in the future than in the 3rd book. Like, if Ana was to do it again, I think she would just kind of make Farah and Blake's love story book 1 and book 3. Like, that makes more sense. It's okay if there's a book in between. Let them grieve a little, because then that makes like them coming back into their lives more impactful. So book number 1, Blake and Farah are both studying abroad in Shanghai. Farah is American-born Chinese, and Blake has just quit football, and his dad's having a meltdown over it. But he wants to go somewhere where he's not going to be found. He wants to challenge himself, so he chooses Shanghai. This book was honestly, for me, very hard to get through, not because it was poorly written or the characters were half-baked, but because being there, done that. We also studied abroad in China. We also lived in China for 18 months. So getting transported back there, even though we weren't in Shanghai, just like the kind of camaraderie between the students and all the little like cultural elements, like going out drinking, the karaoke, the study, like the work-life balance, the friendships, the drama. It's messy when you live abroad, and we did that at 17. So Farah being like a messy 19-year-old, heavy relations, there was a relating going on. It's a good book. We gave it a C, not because it was hard for us to get through, but objectively it is a C. Anna doesn't have a clear writing style yet. The characters are good, but very self-inserty. When I read that Anna had actually studied in Shanghai, I was just like, well, that makes sense. Because you can tell that the author writing it really loves Shanghai and knows, like, has that personal connection to studying abroad. And I would bet money that some of the characters are based on like her friends in real life. Like, it's very real, contemporary romance. Like, by the time we get to like the Twisted series and the Kings of Sin series, it's very much more of that like fantasy romance. Like, he's a billionaire, he's a bodyguard, and she's a princess. The If Love series is very down to earth, and each book is set in a different city. So that is why the covers have different postcards with different city skylines on them. This one obviously being San Francisco. Now, the reason why I bought this one is because book 1, book 2, book 3, yes, structurally they were a bit messy, but Anna's love for the characters comes through so much that you want to root for them, and that's why I gave them C's. This immediately skyrockets to an A tier because Sammy and Olivia are just meant to be together, and Anna made me think that they were meant to be together because they got together back in like book 1. Like, we know that they have a little thing going on, it's really, really cute, and then this is set 10 years later because they break up. The banter just bantered so hard. It reminds me of like Dramini fanfiction. Dramini fanfiction, where they're like both really smart individuals and they have all of that banter, except he's leaving academia to pursue a bakery business. A bakery called Crumble and Bake, which is literally the first scene that we get in the next book in Twisted Love, which is when Ava is getting a cake for her old brother Josh. Like, all of these things are interconnected, like Asher being a football star and like a couple of the girls having an Asher Donovan crush. Like, he owns the bakery Crumble and Bake, and by the time we're in book 4, it's really successful. It's really picking up, it's so popular, it's won awards, and Olivia's kind of like, shit, I let him go because I was told by my parents that like it's not a respectable profession. Like, I was taught the very like specific values. Olivia had a plan. MBA, Wall Street VP by 32, marriage and 2 children, preferably twins because #efficiency, not in her plan. Losing half her belongings in an apartment flood and being forced to turn to her ex for help, definitely not in her plan. Moving into said ex's house and watching him walk around shirtless, bake her cupcakes, and look at her with those smoldering, wait, what was she talking about again? This bitch. Like, honestly, I love these two so much. Sammy Yu is definitely on the boyfriend list, fictional boyfriend list. Sammy Yu, Josh Chen, Dante Russo, like, I'm sorry, but like, these men are just S-tier men. And what do the 3 of those men have in common? Women who would be on my fictional wifey list. I love Olivia so much. Olivia, she's very type A, lists, organization, and watching her trying to like integrate herself into Sammy's life was just so fun and refreshing. Rom-com material. Like, I know that Twisted series is getting turned into a TV show, I'm pretty sure. I'm so obsessed with that, cannot wait for that. But If We Were Perfect would be such a good like standalone, like, we don't have to do the whole series, but If We Were Perfect would be such a good like once-off romance comedy, like a rom-com to die for. I love this book so much. A tier. I just want to say though quickly, the reason why it's not an S tier is because I'm ranking these books comparatively to each other. Like, when we did the ranking Elsie Silver books, when I put them in the D tier, I meant this book should not have been published. When I put If We Were Perfect in the A tier instead of the S tier, I mean it is an A-tier book, but I cannot put it, in good conscience, I cannot put it in the same category as Twisted Hate. Like, it's not gonna happen. And when I talk about this book, you'll understand why. Okay, now onto the Twisted series. It goes Twisted Love, Twisted Games, Twisted Hate, Twisted Lives. And Twisted Love sets up these 4 books so well. Like, it's the perfect starter book because Ava's friendship group are the female protagonists for each of these books. So we've got Ava and then Bridget, the royal princess in book 2. And then we've got Jules, who I'm absolutely obsessed with. Like, if I had to pick a favorite Ana Huang character, Jules. I see myself in her so much. And then obviously Stella, beautiful Stella in Twisted Lives. The premise for Twisted Love is actually quite simple. We're introduced to Ava. Ava has an older brother, Josh, who's going away. Josh's best friend, Alex, he says, hey man, can you look after my little sister? Like, she is an adult. She's not like a babysitter. Like, she is like in her last year of college, like figuring things out. But she's very much got like this kind of rebellious streak going on. And she kind of gets into trouble a lot. And Josh blames Jules, her BFF. And is basically like, Jules gets you into all of these situations, like you're just enabling her, you're getting caught up in her drama, which we'll get back to. But he's just like, hey man, hey Alex, my broski, just keep an eye on her. Actually, how about you just move next door? Just move in next door and make sure she doesn't get up to any shenanigans. Ava has a little bit of a crush, not gonna lie. Alex Volkov is kind of hot, but also he's emotionally stunted. He's a billionaire. He comes from like a pretty emotionally repressed family. No one talks about their feelings. And all Ava does is talk about her feelings. And so she kind of brings that out in him, and he's like teaching her to stand up for herself and not gaslight herself because she has a really shit relationship with her dad, who, spoiler alert, tried to kill her several times. And she doesn't remember, she just has all of these memory gaps because that's how that works. Like, traumatic experience, dissociative amnesia. We know all about that, hashtag relatable. I love Ava as a character because even though she's experienced trauma, she still never weaponizes it, and she uses it as like an excuse to be kind. She's like, no, I'm gonna be kind here in this situation. I'm gonna be kind here in this situation. And Alex is kind of like, stop, like have a spine, a backbone, like stick up for yourself. You don't have to like just bow down. And she's like, there's actually power in kindness. Slay. Alex comes up with a way to get Ava's dad to confess to drowning her and basically like abusing her entire childhood. And he confesses that it's because she's actually a bastardized child. Like, she's not his kid. Like, Josh is his kid, but their mum had an affair. And that goes on tape, and he starts gaslighting her in the room after he just said it. When like the authorities come in, he's like, no, you know, this would never happen. Like, your brother will never forgive you if like I go to prison. And she's just like, what the fuck? And Alex is like, look at me, no gaslighting. He's gaslighting you right now. Written so well. Like, gaslighting is one of those psychology terms that has kind of been appropriated, and now people use it in the way that it's not meant to be used. Used correctly, and a very good example of it in practice. And I love Anna for this. This is a B book. In comparative to everything, Twisted Love is a B. Twisted Games is If We Were Perfect material. This is an A standard book. Twisted Games is about Bridget, who's a royal, a Scandinavian royal. I think actually Anna made up the country that she's from. All my brain is saying is Arendelle, like Frozen Kingdom Arendelle, and like that's not. It's Eldora. It doesn't even start with A, so I don't know where I got A from. She's from Eldora, which is a made-up country, obviously, and she's a royal, and from the way that it's kind of described, I would assume it's kind of like Scandinavian-esque location-wise, but it's really cute because this is an age gap that I don't morally agree with, but Anna is such a great writer that she makes me love the characters. Reese is 32 and Bridget's 22. So like, do I agree with that age gap? No. But Anna has made me love these characters so much, and she's written it that I believe that they're meant to be together, which is how you can distinguish a good fictional age gap from a problematic one. The way Anna writes, there is no one else for Bridget. Like, genuinely, there's no one else for Bridget, and there's no one else for Reese. They're meant to be together. And because Anna's such a phenomenal writer, I feel that. That's why this is an A tier book. Reese gets assigned as Bridget's bodyguard, and she immediately starts needling him. She's just like, I don't need protection. And she starts thinking of creative ways alongside Jules and Ava and Stella. Stella kind of is just there. She's too smart to get caught up in the shenanigans. The premise of this book is quite simple. Basically, the person that was next in line for the throne has just abdicated, and now Bridget is next in line for the throne. She has to become Queen of Eldora, and she has to then marry, because it's appropriate, a fellow royal or a fellow upper class person. And obviously Reese is not that, because Reese is a bodyguard, ex-military, but it's not seen as a suitable enough profession for someone who's going to become the next king of Eldora. So there is tension here. There's sneaking around. There's that forbidden kind of we can't do this, there's a timeline on this, once I will get married and I will have to get engaged. And the tension is written so well. Unlike when it was trying to be replicated in The Striker, when it's just oh, we can't be together because you're my brother's teammate. And then he just leaves. And it's okay, well, it's not really forbidden if he's not around to catch you guys out. The throne room scene, anyone could have walked past. Just that is what gets your heart racing, and that is the difference. That is how you can tell what's been written from love and through heart, and with proper editing. This book is double the size of this one and contains very little substance. Very little substance. Not to be harsh on me, but that is the truth. This had me sobbing and crying and loving and laughing. And it was just so wonderful, so heartwarming. There's not much I would change about this at all. A tier. It's time. It's time for Josh Chen and Jules Ambrose. I love these two so much. I ship them so much. They are one of my favorite fictional literary couples. And like I said, Sammy and Olivia are up there, and so are Dante and Vivian, but Josh and Jules are still the top. I know I had my little moment with Dante there when I first read King of Wrath, but as it kind of settled, Josh and Jules are still at the top. Basically, we know that they don't like each other. Straight from Twisted Love, when we meet Anna, Josh is Jules is a bad influence. Jules is this, and they have that banter, and they hate each other. But also, where there's that amount of loathing, there's potential for lusting, which can turn into love, and that's exactly what we get here. The enemies to lovers tag is not just there for marketing in this book. There was hate here. There was hate sex, and it was steamy and hot, and it was their first time together. And just, you know how I said in the Ali Hazelwood Deep End review, where I was just saying please is not really begging. Yes, but no. Saying please once is pleading. I wouldn't count that as begging. Begging with 3 G's at the end. This is what that is. I love these two so much. And then it was just so heartbreaking when at the end, Jules and the painting, and she's trying to confess, and he's such a shit to her, and then he realizes because Alex, who's emotionally repressed, and still emotionally repressed, better after dating Ava, but still stunted to some degree. He's hey man, I think perhaps you're having some big feelings, and you need to kind of work on why you're upset at Jules. Are you upset at Jules, or are you upset at yourself? When Alex is the voice of reason, you know you fucked up. And Josh did fuck up, but so did Jules, and they both fucked up. And then they both come back together, and there's forgiveness and working on each other. And I just, oh my God, this was so refreshing, because, Bridget's princess, and Alex is a billionaire. Josh and Jules are just normal people, a lawyer and a doctor who worked really, really hard to get to where they're at. Josh has no money. He has medical debt from university. Jules is a lawyer. She worked really hard. She came from scraps. We actually found out that like she changed her name to Jules Ambrose because she wanted to escape her past. And that was so sweet as well when she went back to the hometown. And also, can we just love on the representation of shitty mothers? Like, I'm sorry, but if there's one thing Anna can write well, it's the mother-daughter relationship being estranged, and also having the characters be unapologetic and be willing to get disowned. Like Vivian, Olivia, Jules, willing to get disowned but standing up for what they believe in and being their authentic self. Hashtag relatable content. Yes, S tier. And finally, we have the last book in the Twisted series, Twisted Lies, which is Christian and Stella's series. We gave this book a B to be paralleled with Twisted Love. It was good, I liked it, but I think that there was too much kind of build up. Like, it is definitely a lot thicker, and we kind of got like this building of anticipation, but it's kind of like when a DJ is like building the beat, but instead of dropping it at the right time, it just kept on building. But then if you keep on building too much, it kind of starts going the opposite way. It's kind of like, okay, my interest in this couple is now like crashing, so you need to kind of pick it up. And it kind of did go that way, but then Anna like picked it straight back up. I loved the characters. I love Stella so much. I don't think Anna did as good of a job as convincing me that they're meant to be together. Like, I could see Stella with somebody else. Like, I love that Christian would like get on his knees for her, but also I think that I didn't get enough. Like, Stella, we've known her since Twisted Love, since the book. Like, we've seen her scattered throughout. She was Jules's roommate. Like, we love her. And just like in The Striker, where I was like, I like Asha. Like, I've grown to love this character. Christian was definitely more developed than Scarlet, but we didn't really see him interact with anyone outside of her and his kind of little team. I think instead of telling Stella about like his family and like why he doesn't believe in love and like the story of his parents, I think it would have actually worked better if we were like in the scene and it was like a preface to the story. Like, if that's the opening shot and we actually see kind of like him interacting, like as a young boy, like interacting with that scene, and then cut to like where we're like currently up to in the present, it would have been such an opening, impactful scene, and then we would have understood like where he's coming from. Like, I feel like just a oral recount didn't give me enough of a connection to him as a character. So yeah, a B for Twisted Lies. On to the Kings of Sin series. Now, the first Ana Huang video that we did on this channel was our book review for King of Wrath, because we had just finished it, and oh my god, when I first read this book, I was so obsessed with it. And you can see, because I rewatched that video, because I was like, what have I said about it already? And I was just like, you can tell, I'm like so obsessed with him. I'm obsessed with Vivian, I'm obsessed with Dante. Again, Anna has done a solid start in setting up a series. We've met a couple of the characters, we know who's going to be next, but it's not kind of feeling forced, like I said in Elsie Silver's video, where like the first book of the Chestnut Spring series, I didn't get the kind of love story that I was supposed to, because Elsie was focusing on building up the rest of the characters. Like, I love those two as a pairing, but I love them more in their cameos in other books. Whereas Dante and Vivian, it was like, yeah, we're slowly building the background characters and like the protagonists of the next couple of books, but it was like 2%. The other 98%, we were having Vivian and Dante. I love this book so much. Like, what can I say like that hasn't already been said? If you want to see us go into more detail, like I said, we've already done a review for King of Wrath. I'll link it down below. But oh my god, S tier King of Wrath. King of Pride. Now, King of Pride originally I struggled with. I struggled with this book because I'd just come off the high of King of Wrath, I was like, yes, I'm ready. Kai piqued my interest. I really wanted to know more about Kai. He's kind of got that Kyoya Senpai from Ouran High School Host Club. He's got Kyoya Senpai vibes, and that kind of like stoic, like takes care of all the inventory, type A, like straight-laced. And I was like, yes, give me that and then show me what he's like in the bedroom or on a piano, like more than what I could ask for. But I didn't really appreciate this book until I had time to digest King of Wrath, because it was a shift. I gave King of Wrath a B tier. Like, it was good, but it had room to improve. Isabella actually felt quite closed off, and she's a writer and I'm a writer, and I was like, surely this is a character that I should be able to relate to. I just wasn't getting it. She just really annoyed me, actually, to be honest. She just really annoyed me. I didn't like how they kind of came together. Again, with like Twisted Lies, Anna didn't do as good of a job as convincing me that these two should be together, because I think I could imagine Kai with someone else. And that's how you know that you probably haven't done the best job at writing a romance novel. Like, I need to feel like these characters, like Crazy Eyes, like I need to feel like these characters would die without each other. You know what I mean? And that just didn't happen for me in King of Pride. I loved it more on my second read, but on my second read, it's a B. Like, the first time I read it, it was a C. Second time, clear head, objective, B tier. King of Greed. Oh my god, King of Greed, A tier. This book made me sob. Dominic is the exact flavor of rich person that I hate. I cannot stand. When someone goes from rags to riches, they will end up one of two ways. They will either still end up as like a workaholic who doesn't know how to spend money, who won't buy wifey flowers because it's a waste of money. And when everything is so like money and work dependent, you lose yourself and the people around you in the process. Or you end up with money and you share. Those are the two options. And obviously that type of rich person is someone that I'm going to support. I'm not going to back someone who forgets his anniversary. I was just like, no. I was like, no, Alessandra. As soon as I read that, I was like, Alessandra, no, out. Like, no, leave, divorce. But that's how well this book was written. This book was written so well that like I hated Dominic at the start, and Anna weaved me way back around all the way to loving them together. Because at the start of the book, I was like, no, I don't want them in the same room. I don't want them, like, she deserves better. And then Anna weaves it around and it's like, surprise, you actually love them as a pairing. And it's like, yeah, I kind of do. I love the flashbacks. Like, this was done so well, flashing back from like when they first met to like now, and like showing the origin of their love story and it like going back and forth. Yes. The only thing I would have changed, and this is like going to contradict my feedback of like King of Envy and the Striker and Twisted Lies, why is this book so short? Like, there could have easily been like another couple of scenes just to give it, just to push it up to like that S tier. Like, I know I complained about the length of the other ones, but like this could have done with like just another 2 scenes from pre baby Dominic and Alessandra. Like, I would have loved that. And that would have been like a bit more like fan servicey, but I feel like those filler moments really just make a book. And yeah, for that reason, A. Next up is King of Sloth, which is the love story between Sloane and Javier, which I was pronouncing wrong the whole time I was reading it. In my mind, I was pronouncing it Xavier because of how it's spelled. And I was just like, oh my God, like in Australia, we would pronounce that Xavier, but I forgot that he's Latino. And so because of that and the spelling of his name, it is pronounced Javier. And I love these two so much. I love them so much that, like, if you guys have been watching our shorts, we have this review book where we do like book reviews, But right at the back and at the front, we have fan art. Like, that's the start. We've got Evelyn Hugo, Celia St. James, Jeremy Volkov, and Cecily. We've got Katniss and Peter. And right at the back, Sloane and Javier, right next to Aaron and Juliet from the Shadow Me series. But I love them so much. The character dynamic between the two of them reminds me so much of my partner and myself. Like, if I had one of the 7 deadly sins to characterize myself by, it would be sloth. Like, not in a lazy way, more in a I like to take my time way. Like, what? Like, it's not my fault. I have a Taurus, Sun, Moon, Venus, and I'm born in the year of the Ox. Like, I will take my time, full stop. I'm getting better at it though. I am learning that not everything has to be perfectly curated and created, and sometimes it's okay to just go with the flow. Yes, I'm married in Aquarius, and they keep me on my toes and they keep me, you know, moving. And sometimes I dig my heels in. And this is the dynamic between Sloane and Javier. And Sloane, again, type A. Like, if you look at all of the characters that I'm obsessed with in the Anaverse, they're all type A. They're all like really rigid, structured, and my little brain is like, yes, I'm attracted to people who know how to use a timetable and an Excel spreadsheet. Sloane, we've loved throughout the first couple of books of the Kings of Sin series. She's like a PR manager, like a publicist. Like, she is also representing Asha from The Striker, so, you know, she makes a little cameo in there as well because she represents Asha. And Javier's like, I'm like your easiest client, and she's like, no, you are not my easiest client, you're a pain in my ass. And so she has to like pull him out, really keep him on schedule and on time because he can't be trusted to do it himself. And he tricks her into spending a vacation with him, and it's just shenanigans. You know, opposites attract. This is written so well, opposites attract. Like, if that's a trope that you're into, definitely check out Kings of Sloth. We gave it an A. I think the only thing that could be improved upon that could have given it an S is, like, structurally, it was messy. Like, if I think about it, yes, I love the characters a lot, like a lot. I love Sloane and Javier, but this was definitely the start of the downfall in terms of like the messiness. King of Sloth should have been edited more. It should have. It's too long. There are a couple of scenes that could have definitely been cut, and then they just get longer. Like, it's 450 pages, and then like 500 pages, 550 pages. Like, what? You don't need to say that much. Like, Anna, no. Like, yes, it's good to like type stream of consciousness, but the editing process definitely needed work. As much as I love the characters pulled you up to an A here. These two, I am putting in the D tier. Anyways, that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you agreed with our ranking, tell us in the comments. If you disagreed, tell us where you would have put other books and why. Have you read all of her books? Have you only read like the Twisted series? Is King of Envy actually worth it? Like, what am I actually going to get out of it? Like, did you guys struggle with it? Like, at what point, like, not to just sound basic, but like, at what point does it get good? Happy Pride Month, and I'll see you next time.